The night was alive with fury. Rain crashed down on the ancient Roman marketplace like the gods themselves were weeping, or maybe warning. Torches hissed as the storm swallowed their flames, shadows bleeding across marble columns etched with the stories of old conquests and forgotten names. The air was thick, metallic, sharp, with the scent of blood and iron. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed. Somewhere else, someone prayed. And in the center of it all, she stood. The Luna. The king's mate. His queen. And tonight, his prisoner. Silver chains wrapped around her wrists like living serpents, biting deep into her skin. She trembled, her breaths ragged and uneven, the soft swell of her belly rising beneath the soaked fabric of her gown. She was heavy with life, his life, the Alpha King's unborn heirs. Yet here she was, kneeling in mud and blood, surrounded by a sea of faces that once bowed before her. The crowd was chanting. Hungry. Merciless. They wanted a show. And the Alpha King, he was going to give them one. He stood tall on the stone dais above her, a god carved from rage and pride. His robes clung to him, soaked in the storm. Lightning cracked behind him, painting his silhouette in ghostly fire. His voice boomed, drowning out the thunder. You betrayed the bond, Luna. You defied your Alpha before the moon itself. She lifted her face slowly, rain and tears indistinguishable, her lips trembling as she whispered, just loud enough for the wind to carry. You defied the mate bond before the gods ever gave it to us. Gasps rippled through the arena. He didn't flinch, but his jaw tightened. The crowd shifted, the anticipation electric. The whip unfurled in his hand, black leather glistening under the torchlight. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She just watched him, eyes wide and shining with something between terror and defiance. When the first strike landed, it echoed across the marble like thunder made of pain. The second tore through her breath. The third drew blood. The storm screamed with her. The sky seemed to weep harder, as if nature itself couldn't bear the cruelty being played out below. And through it all, through the agony that split her skin, through the jeers of the crowd, through the betrayal written in her mate's face, she held on to one thought. Not of herself. But of them. The twins. The unborn heirs kicking inside her, tiny fists reminding her that she wasn't alone. That she couldn't give in. Lightning struck the great obelisk that towered over the market, and for a moment, every face turned to the heavens. That was when she moved. Her chains slipped. The silver burned her flesh, but she didn't stop. She tore free, stumbling to her feet, her body trembling but alive. The crowd shouted. The Alpha King roared. Guards lunged forward, but she ran, barefoot, bleeding, her gown tearing behind her like a ghostly trail. The rain swallowed her. Down the marble steps. Through the mud. Past the roaring beasts still chained in their pens. Every heartbeat was agony, every breath a fight, but she didn't care. She had one thought, run. Behind her, the Alpha King's voice thundered. Find her. Bring me the traitor alive. But the storm was louder. The marketplace blurred behind her, its torches dimming, its noise fading into the distance. She ran through alleys slick with rain, her feet slipping on stone, her body shaking with exhaustion. The world around her was chaos, vendors' stalls overturned, cages broken, wolves howling as lightning danced across the sky. Her vision blurred. Blood and rain mixed on her lips. She pressed a trembling hand to her belly, whispering through her tears. I'll keep you safe. Both of you. No matter what it takes. Every step burned. Every heartbeat reminded her of what she'd lost, the throne, the title, the mate she thought she knew. The storm chased her through the ruins, its winds howling like wolves mourning their dead. The trees bent low, whispering secrets in the language of the old gods. Somewhere beyond the forest, she could still hear the distant toll of the ritual bells, the sound of the Alpha King sealing her fate. She kept running. Her breath came in ragged gasps. The silver marks on her wrists glowed faintly, the remnants of the ritual magic still searing through her veins. But even through the pain, she felt it, the faint hum of something older, something sleeping inside her. A pulse of light beneath her ribs, slow but steady. Her power. The one she was never meant to awaken. She stumbled into the woods, where marble gave way to mud and moss, where civilization faded into wildness. The rain softened to a whisper, replaced by the hiss of wind through leaves. She leaned against a tree, panting, her body shaking uncontrollably. The forest seemed alive, watching her, listening. The moon peeked through the clouds, pale and indifferent. She slid down to the ground, wrapping her arms around herself. Her body hurt. Her heart hurt worse. The memory of his eyes, the coldness, the fury, cut deeper than any whip. How had they gone from love to this? Once, he'd looked at her like she was his world. Once, he'd promised her forever beneath the crimson moon. Once, he'd whispered her name like it was a prayer. Now, he had turned her into a spectacle. A lesson. A punishment for daring to stand tall. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to forget him. But all she could do was weep. The unborn twins kicked again, gentle but firm. She wiped her tears, forcing her trembling hands to still. No, she whispered to the wind. I can't fall apart now. A flash of lightning illuminated her face, mud-streaked, bloodied, but fierce. The same storm that had condemned her now cloaked her escape. Somewhere behind her, the hunting horns began to sound. They were coming. The Alpha King's wolves. His soldiers. His loyal pack, sworn to obey his command without question. She pushed herself up, her muscles screaming in protest. Her fingers brushed the bark of a nearby tree, a sigil carved deep into its surface. Old runes, older than the Empire, glowing faintly blue in the rainlight. A mark of protection. Her mother had once told her of such things. Sacred trees that sheltered the lost. Guardians of those fleeing from cruelty. She pressed her palm against it. The wood pulsed under her touch, warm and alive. For a moment, she thought she felt her mother's voice, soft, distant, carried on the wind. Keep moving, my child. The forest remembers. The whisper sent chills down her spine. She turned toward the darker part of the woods, where the trees grew ancient and twisted. Her feet sank into the wet earth as she forced herself onward, step by step, her breaths shallow and sharp. Behind her, torches flickered in the distance. The hunt was closing in. But ahead, through the trees, she saw something. A faint light. Flickering. Unsteady. Like a campfire, or maybe a trick of the rain. Her knees buckled, but she pushed forward. Just a little more, she murmured to her unborn children. Just a little more. Her vision swam. The rain had soaked her through, her hair clinging to her face like threads of shadow. Her heart pounded, loud and desperate. Every sound, the crunch of leaves, the snap of twigs, felt amplified by fear. And then, she fell. Down a small slope, rolling through mud and roots until she came to rest in a shallow ravine. The world spun. Pain radiated through her body, but she bit her lip to stay silent. She could hear them above, wolves snarling, men shouting, the metallic scent of silver cutting through the air. She pressed herself against the cold earth, her heartbeat thrumming in her ears. Her breath came slow, careful, silent. They were close. So close she could almost taste their scent on the wind, wet fur, leather, iron. The same pack she had once led. The same wolves who had once bowed before her feet. Now they hunted her. Tears welled up again, but she swallowed them down. She couldn't afford weakness. Not now. Her hands slid protectively over her belly as she whispered. They'll never touch you. Not while I breathe. Minutes passed like hours. The footsteps faded. The voices grew distant. And then, silence. Only the storm remained, soft now, tired, like the sky had cried enough. She let out a shaky breath. Her whole body trembled. But she was alive. She tilted her head toward the heavens, her lips barely moving. Moon Mother, if you're still watching, please, guide me. I don't know where to go. The rain stopped. A single beam of moonlight broke through the clouds, falling across her like a blessing. She closed her eyes and let the light touch her face, her tears glistening in its glow. For the first time in hours, she breathed without pain. But deep in her heart, she knew this was only the beginning. The storm may have passed, but the war, her war, was far from over. Because the moment she fled the marketplace, the prophecy stirred. Because the moment he raised that whip, fate had chosen its side. And because no matter how far she ran, destiny would chase her still. This is just the beginning of her flight from cruelty. Subscribe to Sophie's Romance Collections and feel every heartbeat, every betrayal, every burning hope that drives her. The forest stretched endlessly, an ocean of black pines whispering secrets older than memory. Every tree seemed to breathe, every gust of wind carried the scent of rain and earth and something ancient that stirred beneath the soil. The Luna stumbled through it, her body trembling, her vision swimming with exhaustion. Her steps were uneven, dragging through mud that clung like hands trying to pull her back. Her breath came in ragged bursts. Her heart thudded against her ribs, each beat heavy with fear and defiance. The storm had followed her here, softened but still alive, its distant growl echoing across the mountains. The moon had risen now, pale and cold, her light slicing through the mist like a blade. The Luna's gown, once royal and golden, was now tattered and soaked, clinging to her like a second skin. Every movement made her wince, every drop of rain that touched her open wounds burned like acid. Yet she kept going, because stopping meant death. Or worse, capture. Her body screamed for rest, but her mind wouldn't let her stop. She could still hear echoes of the crowd, the sound of the whip, the voice of the man who once swore to protect her. The Alpha King. Her mate. Her curse. Her legs gave way suddenly, sending her crashing to her knees near a riverbank. The water shimmered faintly under the moonlight, the current whispering softly as if trying to soothe her. She leaned forward, cupping her hands to drink, but the reflection staring back at her stopped her cold. Her face, blood-streaked, eyes hollow, lips pale, didn't look like the Luna she once knew. The mark on her neck, the one that once symbolized her bond to the Alpha King, was now bruised, nearly gone. Broken. She touched it with trembling fingers. A tear slid down her cheek, silent, almost unnoticed. Then another. She whispered to no one. You took everything. A low rustle broke through the trees. She froze. Every instinct screamed danger. The hairs on her neck stood on end, her pulse spiking. The forest held its breath. A shadow moved between the trees, tall, broad, deliberate. Not human. Not fully. The air shifted, heavy, charged. She tried to stand, but pain anchored her to the ground. From the mist, he appeared. A man cloaked in wolfskin, his shoulders broad, his presence immense. The moonlight caught the edges of his face, sharp, strong, carved by battle and years of silence. His hair, dark and wild, clung to his jaw. Scars lined his arms like forgotten stories. And his eyes, those eyes. Burned gold, deep and haunting, like fire trapped behind glass. The world seemed to hold still. Even the river quieted, as if bowing to him. He took a slow step forward. She flinched, dragging herself backward across the wet ground. Stay away, she rasped. Her voice was hoarse, trembling. He didn't stop. The scent of him hit her before his words did, cedar, smoke, and something primal that stirred the dormant wolf inside her. It confused her. Frightened her. Pulled her in. He crouched low, the movement fluid, deliberate, almost reverent. His gaze swept over her wounds, then lingered on her swollen belly. They said you were dead, he murmured, his voice low and steady, carrying an edge of disbelief. Her breath caught. She wanted to answer, to tell him to leave, to tell him that death would have been kinder than what she escaped. But all that came out was a whisper. Then let me stay that way. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The forest seemed to listen. He studied her, expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he removed the fur from his shoulders and placed it around her. The weight of it was warm, grounding, his scent wrapping around her like protection she hadn't asked for. You're bleeding, he said quietly. I've had worse. But when he reached for her arm, she hissed, jerking away. The movement was weak, but full of defiance. His gaze softened, not with pity, but something deeper, recognition. You shouldn't be alone out here. I don't have a choice. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a strip of cloth, tearing it in two. Then let me help you. You won't last till dawn if I don't. She hesitated. Trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. But the world was spinning now, her strength slipping through her fingers like sand. She let him move closer. His touch was careful, surprisingly gentle. His hands were calloused, but precise, experienced. When he wrapped the cloth around her wrist, his fingers brushed against the silver burns. She winced, and he stopped instantly. I'm sorry, he murmured. She swallowed, forcing her voice steady. Who are you? Someone who knows what it means to lose everything. The simplicity of his words cut deeper than any explanation. He tied the cloth securely, the knot firm. Then he looked at her again, truly looked, past the blood, past the dirt, into the part of her she'd hidden even from herself. You carry more than wounds, he said softly. You carry fire. Something in her chest tightened. Her heartbeat stuttered. The words shouldn't have meant anything. But the way he said them, the way his voice seemed to recognize what even she hadn't dared to, left her breathless. You don't know me, she whispered. I know enough. You're not supposed to be alive, and yet here you are. That makes you dangerous. He stood, scanning the darkness beyond the trees. They're still hunting. You can hear them, can't you? She closed her eyes. The distant howls rose like echoes of death. Yes, she breathed. They won't stop. He turned back to her, his silhouette framed against the mist. Then we keep moving. We? His gaze flicked toward her belly again. You can't fight like this. I can. You'll follow, or you'll die here. The words should have angered her. But instead, they steadied her. There was no arrogance in his tone, only truth. She nodded once, weakly. He didn't wait for more. He lifted her easily, one arm beneath her knees, the other at her back. She tensed instinctively, her breath catching at the sudden nearness. His body radiated heat, solid and unwavering, his scent intoxicating. Put me down, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. You wouldn't make it 5 steps. She didn't argue again. The forest swallowed them both as he carried her deeper into the dark. Each step was sure, unhurried. The sound of his boots in the mud, the rhythm of his breathing, everything about him seemed perfectly attuned to the wilderness. She watched his jaw tighten under the flicker of moonlight. He looked like someone who'd walked through fire and come out forged rather than broken. Her mind fought to stay alert, but exhaustion blurred the edges of thought. Her head fell against his shoulder. For the first time since she ran, she allowed herself to close her eyes. He glanced down at her, his expression unreadable. The moonlight caught the faint mark on his neck, a scar shaped like a crescent. Old. Familiar. He adjusted his grip, pulling her closer as the wind picked up. The scent of the Alpha King's men was faint now, miles behind, but he didn't slow. Not until they reached the foot of the mountains. A cave yawned ahead, hidden behind a curtain of ivy and stone. He ducked inside, lowering her gently onto a bed of moss. She shivered, curling into herself, clutching his fur tighter. He started a fire, the crackle of flame breaking the silence. The warmth licked across the stone walls, painting them in shades of amber and gold. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, quietly. Why did he do it? She didn't answer at first. The question hung heavy in the air, full of memories she wasn't ready to revisit. Because I told the truth, she said finally, voice trembling. And he couldn't bear it. He looked at her across the fire. The flames danced in his golden eyes. And what truth was worth your life? She met his gaze. That love doesn't give you the right to own someone. The silence that followed was thick, almost holy. He nodded slowly, as if the words settled somewhere deep inside him. Then you did the right thing. She looked down, her fingers tracing the edge of her stomach. It doesn't feel like it. He studied her again, more quietly now. It will. The fire crackled softly between them. She wanted to ask who he was, what pack he came from, why he looked at her like he already knew her pain. But her body was giving in. The adrenaline had faded, leaving only exhaustion and ache. Her eyes grew heavy, her breathing shallow. He rose and moved closer, draping another fur over her shoulders. Sleep, he said softly. You're safe for now. Safe is an illusion, she whispered, eyes half closed. Then let it be one you can rest in. The words wrapped around her like a lullaby. She fell asleep to the sound of the fire and the rhythm of his heartbeat beside her, steady and unyielding. And when her dreams came, they were filled with light, silver fire, twin moons, and a golden-eyed wolf standing in the storm, watching over her. The forest outside remained restless, but within the cave, for the first time in years, she was not alone. And though neither of them said it aloud, both felt it. The pull. That strange, electric thread that connects two souls long before they understand why. He didn't sleep. He kept watch, eyes fixed on the cave entrance, every sense alive. But sometimes, when the wind shifted and carried her scent toward him, his chest ached with something dangerous. Something he'd buried long ago. He told himself it was duty. He told himself it was protection. But deep down, he already knew the truth. The moment he found her, his world had changed. And hers had just begun. The fire had burned low by the time dawn began to crawl over the peaks, its light a thin wash of gray and gold that reached timidly into the mouth of the cave. The Alpha. The stranger who had carried her from the edge of death, sat in stillness, his back against the stone, his gaze unmoving from the world outside. He hadn't slept. He hadn't needed to. Every sound in the forest was accounted for, every heartbeat memorized. Behind him, the Luna stirred. A shiver rippled through her body as the remnants of fever twisted her dreams into something cruelly vivid. She saw flashes of crimson sky. Silver flames licking across her skin. Her mother's voice whispering through the smoke, "Your flame will free or destroy us all." Her breath hitched. She turned in her sleep, the furs tangled around her legs, her lips forming words that made no sense, yet somehow did. He watched her, quiet, cautious. The flicker of the firelight caught the sheen of sweat across her brow, the tremor of her hands. Something inside him, something long buried under instinct and survival, shifted. He rose and crossed to her side. When he pressed the back of his hand to her forehead, it burned. The fever had deepened, drawing her deeper into memory's claws. And so the past found her again. She was a child standing in the temple's courtyard, her small feet bare against the polished stone. The night sky burned red with the blood moon, its light spilling over the sacred fire. The priests had gathered in a wide circle, their chants rising in unison. Her mother stood at the center, tall, radiant, her eyes filled with something between pride and dread. She remembered clutching her mother's robe, asking why the moon bled. Her mother's fingers, warm and trembling, brushed through her hair. "Because it knows what you are, my light," she'd said softly. "It knows what you will become." Then came the pain. The searing heat spreading through her veins. The silver light bursting from her skin like wings made of fire. The crowd gasped. Some called it a blessing. Others, a curse. Her father, the outlawed wolf shifter who had loved the priestess against every law, stood beyond the gates, unseen but watching. She had felt his gaze even then. And when the priests dragged him away that night, accused of corrupting holy blood, she had screamed until her throat tore. The Luna's body jerked in the cave, a low sound breaking from her chest. The Alpha's jaw tightened, his hand hovering above her shoulder but not touching. Years passed in her dream like a river rushing toward ruin. The temple fell silent. Her mother grew older, her eyes hollowed by loss. The girl became a woman, marked by the blood moon, shunned by the pack that should have called her Luna. Then came the treaty. The Alpha King had arrived draped in armor and promise. He spoke of peace, of unity, of an end to bloodshed. His voice had been steady, his smile calculated. And when he took her hand before the council, her mother's eyes filled with tears, not of joy, but warning. He does not love you, her mother had whispered that night. He wants what burns inside you. She hadn't believed her. Not until the day he bound her to him with silver cuffs instead of vows. Not until she watched him draw her blood in secret, offering it to the council as proof of divine right. Not until she realized she was no longer wife, but weapon. The Alpha in the cave leaned forward as she whispered something in her sleep. Her voice was faint, broken, but he caught the words. "Don't take it, please." He exhaled slowly, the sound almost a growl. Whatever past haunted her was darker than he'd imagined. The fever dragged her deeper. Her mother's voice came again, softer this time, as though carried by wind through ashes. "When your flame wakes, the world will tremble. You must choose what it consumes." She had run then, through corridors of marble and moonlight, desperate to escape the echo of her own destiny. But destiny followed, silent and relentless, until the night her mother's temple burned. That night she saw the Alpha King standing in the flames, his eyes reflecting the inferno, his words cold and final. "Your power belongs to me." The Luna gasped and woke. The world slammed back into focus, the smell of smoke, the taste of copper on her tongue, the steady sound of the river outside. She sat up sharply, clutching the fur around her shoulders. Her heart pounded as though she were still in that burning temple. The Alpha turned to her, his voice low. "You were dreaming." She blinked, her eyes wild for a heartbeat, then settling on him. "Not a dream. A memory." He said nothing. He didn't ask. But his gaze held questions she wasn't ready to answer. She looked toward the mouth of the cave where dawn stretched thinly across the forest. The mist curled like breath around the trees. The world outside was deceptively calm. "How long was I asleep?" "Half the night," he said. "Your fever broke with the moon." She pulled the fur tighter, the memory of her mother's words still echoing. "The moon has never given without taking something back." He watched her, head tilted slightly. "What did it take from you?" Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Everything that made me believe I could belong." He didn't look away. "Then maybe it's time you stop belonging to anyone." The words hit deeper than she expected. For a moment, silence pressed between them. The fire had dwindled to embers. The river outside whispered faintly against the stones. She rose unsteadily and walked toward the mouth of the cave, the morning air cold against her skin. The forest glowed in muted gold, the first light turning dew into diamonds. She knelt near the stream that trickled just beyond the threshold, her reflection rippling in its surface. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft but edged in pain. "Every life inside me depends on staying unseen." He stood behind her, his shadow falling over hers in the water. "Then I'll be the shadow that hides you." The words weren't a promise, they were an instinct. A truth he didn't need to think about. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the rock. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to rest inside that vow, even if only for a heartbeat. But trust was a fragile thing, and hers had been shattered beyond easy repair. She turned to face him. The light framed him in silver, catching in the scar on his jaw. He looked like he had fought the world and refused to yield. Why? She asked quietly. Why risk yourself for me? He met her gaze without flinching. Because I was there the night your temple burned. Her breath stilled. The ground beneath her seemed to tilt. That's not possible, she whispered. It is, he said. I saw the king's men surround it. I smelled the silver. I heard the screaming. I found your mother at the edge of the forest. She was dying. Her chest constricted. You're lying. He shook his head slowly. She made me swear to find you. Said her daughter carried the fire that could undo the curse of the blood moon. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. Her voice trembled. She sent you? She saved me once, he said. It was my turn to repay her. The world narrowed to the sound of the river and her heartbeat. Then you know what I am. I do. And you're not afraid? He stepped closer, his voice a low growl. I fear what hunts you. Not you. Her throat tightened. The air between them thickened with something unspoken, raw and magnetic. You don't understand, she said softly. The flame isn't mercy. It destroys. Maybe destruction is what's needed. She stared at him, breath shallow. His conviction, his steadiness, it broke something open inside her. She turned away, her hands trembling as she touched the river again. The water was cold, grounding. Her reflection wavered, and for a moment, she saw not herself but the ghost of who she used to be, a queen draped in gold, her eyes bright with defiance. The girl who believed in peace. The woman who lost everything to it. Now, she was something else. Something in between. The Alpha moved beside her, kneeling at the water's edge. His reflection merged with hers, the line between them blurring in the current. What's your name? She asked suddenly. Names don't matter when you're running. They do to me. He hesitated, then said, Kale. She let the name roll through her thoughts, heavy and familiar in a way she couldn't explain. Kale, she repeated softly. You were supposed to die in the border wars. He gave a faint, humorless smile. Supposed to. Their eyes met again. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was alive. A fragile understanding began to take shape, delicate but real. He looked toward the forest. The king's trackers will cross the ridge by nightfall. We move before then. And go where? North. There's an old sanctuary beyond the black peaks. Hidden by shadow wards. They won't find you there. She stared at him for a long moment. And when they do? His gaze hardened. Then they'll wish they hadn't. As the sun climbed higher, she watched him prepare for the journey, checking the edges of his blades, tightening the straps of his pack. Every movement was purposeful, efficient. She realized then that he wasn't just strong, he was disciplined. Controlled. A wolf who'd learned to survive not by rage, but by restraint. She envied that control. When he turned, she was still at the river, her palm hovering just above the water. The faint shimmer of silver light flickered beneath her skin, faint but growing stronger. She pulled her hand back quickly, hiding it beneath the cloak. Kale noticed. It's waking, isn't it? She looked away. I can't let it. If you don't, it'll consume you anyway. Her voice dropped, almost a whisper. You sound like her. Your mother. She nodded, eyes distant. She said my flame was meant to free or destroy us all. I never understood what she meant until the night I burned the king's throne. His breath caught, almost imperceptibly. You did that? I tried to. He survived. I didn't. Kale's expression changed, admiration mixed with sorrow. Then the stories were wrong. They said you were taken. That you begged for mercy. She met his eyes, steady and cold. They never tell the truth about women who fight back. For the first time, he smiled, faint, fleeting, but real. Then let them tell lies. We'll write the truth ourselves. Something inside her broke free at that. A small, fragile thing she'd thought long dead. Hope. The forest beyond the cave glowed brighter now, the light cutting through the mist. She stood, gathering the furs around her, her body still weak but her spirit steadier than it had been in years. Cale extended a hand, not commandingly, but in quiet offer. She hesitated only a moment before taking it. His fingers closed around hers, rough and warm, grounding her to the present. As they stepped into the light together, she realized that her mother had been right. Her flame would free or destroy them all. But this time, she wouldn't run from it. The path to the mountains was carved through fog and silence. Every step felt heavier as if the air itself resisted their passage. The world changed as they climbed, the trees twisted into dark, ancient shapes, roots gnarled like sleeping beasts. The wind carried whispers that weren't quite wind. The Luna felt them crawling along her skin, words she couldn't understand, but her blood did. Cale moved ahead, steady and unflinching. The mist wrapped around his shoulders, his silhouette blending into shadow. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The way he carried himself, shoulders squared, senses sharpened, told her enough. He knew where they were going. He'd been here before. When they reached the ridge, dawn had surrendered to the gray of endless clouds. The shrine of Lapina stood waiting, half buried in the mountain's heart, carved from black obsidian and bone. It was neither temple nor tomb. It was something older. Something alive. The ground trembled faintly beneath their feet, humming with a pulse too ancient to name. The stone columns that flanked the entrance were etched with runes that glowed dimly, the light shifting as though the carvings were breathing. The Luna hesitated. Cale turned back to her, his eyes softer now, almost human in the strange half-light. "This place knows who you are," he said quietly. She looked past him, her pulse unsteady. "Then it also knows what I've done." He stepped closer. "It doesn't judge. It remembers." They entered. The air inside was cold, metallic, heavy with incense that hadn't been burned in centuries. The walls bore murals of wolves larger than life, each one different, their eyes gleaming with silver pigment that caught the faintest light. At the center stood an altar shaped like a wolf's head, its jaws open in a silent snarl. The stone beneath it shimmered faintly, runes pulsing to the rhythm of her heartbeat. The Luna moved closer, her breath shallow. Every instinct screamed to turn back, yet something deep inside her, older than fear, pulled her forward. Cale stopped a few paces behind. "You felt it before, haven't you?" She didn't answer. Her fingers brushed the cold stone, and the runes flared. Light exploded through the shrine, wild and blinding. The air filled with the sound of distant howls, ancient, echoing, layered upon each other until it was no longer a sound but a presence. Her knees buckled. Cale caught her before she fell, but she barely felt his hands. Her vision blurred, then broke open. Flames swallowed the walls around her. The temple was gone, she stood in a field of silver fire that didn't burn. Above her, the blood moon hung full and low, its light dripping like liquid metal. Shadows of wolves moved through the fire, their eyes glowing with the same silver light that lived in her veins. They bowed. One by one, they knelt before her. And behind them, two small figures stood hand in hand. Children. Their eyes reflected her own. Her throat tightened. The flames twisted, forming words in the air, born of fire and blood, to end the reign of false kings. The ground shuddered. The moon flared. The vision collapsed into darkness. She gasped awake, clutching Cale's arm. Her skin burned with faint trails of light that faded as quickly as they appeared. Her breath came in ragged bursts. "What did you see?" he asked. She shook her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. "It wasn't real." Cale's voice dropped to a whisper. "It was prophecy." Her body went still. "You knew this would happen." He didn't deny it. "I knew the shrine would recognize you. I didn't know what it would show." Her gaze locked on his. Tell me the truth, Kale. Why did you really save me? He exhaled, his expression heavy with something between guilt and devotion. Because I was once sworn to the old temples. I was a guardian of the silver flame. Her heart lurched. You served my mother. I served the prophecy, he said. The night the temple burned, the council ordered us to abandon it. They said the flame was corrupted. But I saw what the king did. I saw how he twisted your gift. So I stayed. I waited. And when I found you in the forest, I knew the prophecy hadn't died, it was reborn. She turned away, gripping the edge of the altar. The stone beneath her hand still hummed faintly, matching the rhythm of her heartbeat. I'm no savior, she whispered. Kale stepped closer. No. You're something more. She laughed bitterly. More? I'm hunted. Broken. Carrying the children of the monster who destroyed my home. He didn't flinch. Your vengeance waiting to rise. The words hung in the air, heavy and electric. She looked up sharply. You think vengeance can save this world? I think it's the only thing that's ever changed it. Her chest tightened. Part of her wanted to believe him, to take that fury and mold it into strength. But another part trembled at the thought of becoming what she'd escaped. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind again. Your flame will free or destroy us all. She stared into the altar's open jaws. If what I saw is true, those children, my children, will bring the end of kings. Kale's eyes softened. Not the end. A beginning built on ashes. Silence stretched between them. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains, low and distant. She pressed her palm flat against the stone. Why me? The gods choose through pain, Kale said. And you survived more than most gods could bear. The shrine pulsed again, slow, steady, like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. The light crawled up her arm, shimmering through her skin, tracing the veins with threads of silver. Her pulse quickened. Kale, it's moving. He reached out, his hand hovering just above her skin. Let it. The flame recognizes its bearer. She tried to pull back, but the energy anchored her in place. Her body trembled, her vision filled with flashes of light and memory. Wolves kneeling. Flames devouring marble. 2 infants crowned in light. Then, a voice, not her mother's, not her own. Something ancient, neither male nor female. When blood burns silver, truth shall awaken. The false shall fall. The hunted shall reign. Her body convulsed. Kale caught her before she hit the ground, his arms firm around her. The light faded, leaving her trembling, eyes wide and wet. What did it say? He asked. Her lips parted, but the words came out barely audible. That I am the storm they feared. He held her closer, his voice low and steady. Then we make them fear you again. They stayed in the shrine until the storm outside began to break. Rain fell in fine sheets against the mountainside, mist curling like breath through the broken archways. She sat near the altar, staring into the dying light of the runes. Kale knelt nearby, sharpening his blade though his mind was elsewhere. The twins, she said softly. They're part of it. The prophecy. He looked up. You saw them? She nodded. 2 children, bathed in light. They looked at me like they knew me. He didn't answer, but his eyes darkened with thought. I can't raise them in hiding forever, she continued. If they're what the prophecy spoke of, the world will come for them. The king will never stop. Then we'll make him bleed for every step he takes toward you, Kale said quietly. Her heart ached at the conviction in his tone. You would die for this? He met her gaze. I already did. The day I swore to protect the flame. The silence that followed was thick with meaning neither dared to name. She leaned against the stone, exhaustion pressing into her bones. Her body was heavy with the weight of destiny she didn't ask for, yet could no longer deny. The flame inside her pulsed faintly, neither threat nor promise, just truth. Kale's voice broke the quiet. When the time comes, they'll call you heretic, witch, destroyer. Don't let them. She closed her eyes. Then what should I be? His answer was simple. Unstoppable. Night returned to the mountains. The shrine glowed faintly in the dark, its runes breathing in rhythm with the heartbeat of something eternal. The Luna sat beside Kale near the entrance, watching lightning cut across the clouds. The storm's reflection danced in his eyes. Do you ever wonder, she said softly, if fate is just another kind of cage? He turned to her, his expression unreadable. Only if you stop fighting its bars. She studied him, the sharp lines of his face, the quiet strength beneath the scars. The tension between them was no longer just survival, it was gravity, inevitable and dangerous. The rain softened. The air grew still. Somewhere deep inside the mountain, the shrine sighed, a long, hollow sound, like the earth remembering something sacred. The flame within her chest answered, glowing faintly beneath her skin. Kale saw it and whispered, "It's waking." She nodded, eyes glistening in the dark. So am I. Outside, the first wolf howled. Low. Morning. Then another answered. Then another. Kale stood, eyes scanning the horizon. They know, he said. Who? The packs. The flame's return wasn't meant to be silent. She rose, her body trembling but her spirit steady. Then let them come. Her hand brushed the altar one last time, and the runes flared so brightly the entire shrine seemed to breathe. Kale's gaze met hers, steady, fierce, unyielding. He bowed his head slightly. The prophecy has awakened. And as thunder rolled across the peaks once more, the Luna whispered to the wind, half prayer, half promise. Let them fear the fire they created. Night falls hard on the mountains, heavy and breathless, pressing its weight upon the land as if even the sky itself feared what was coming. The scent of pine and iron fills the air. The valley lies still for a single heartbeat, then the world fractures. A low, thunderous rhythm ripples through the mist, war drums. Their deep, merciless sound travels down from the ridge and into the bones of the earth. The Alpha King's soldiers are coming. The mountain wind carries their scent before their forms appear, men reeking of smoke, leather, and blind obedience. Their torches burn like small suns against the darkness, flames snapping in defiance of the storm that brews above. The air grows restless. Even the trees seem to tremble. She feels it first, before the echoes, before the cries. The energy. The blood-deep pull of danger that coils in her gut. Her hand presses to her swollen belly. The twins stir again, their tiny lives sensing what she dreads. Death has found them once more. Then she hears it, the howl. Not of the enemy, but of him. The one who saved her. The sound cuts through the night, fierce and mournful, a promise and a warning at once. And before her eyes, he emerges from the shadows like something born of both fury and faith. His form shifts in a rush of raw power. Bones crack and realign, flesh gives way to fur. Golden eyes flare in the darkness, and suddenly, the Alpha she thought she knew as man is gone, replaced by the beast that ruled legends. He moves like wind through steel, every motion an echo of violence honed by pain. When the soldiers break through the tree line, he's already upon them. Fangs flash. Blood spills. The scent of iron thickens the air. She watches, trembling, not from fear but from something deeper, something primal. The way he moves is more than strength, it's purpose. Every kill is clean, every strike precise. He doesn't fight for glory. He fights for her. But the battle grows. More soldiers. More steel. The sound of swords clashing drowns out the wind. Sparks rise into the storm like stars trying to escape. She crouches low, clutching her stomach, whispering prayers that vanish in the rain. Her power hums beneath her skin, alive, waiting, remembering. The silver flame she once tried to silence now stirs again, hotter with every scream. An arrow lands near her, sinking deep into the earth. She gasps, instinct flaring. Her body responds before her mind can. Silver light bursts from her hands, wild and uncontrolled. The air trembles. For a moment, the world is blinding white. The forest shudders. Soldiers fall, screaming, their weapons melting as if swallowed by light itself. The river nearby boils, steam rising in ghostly ribbons. When it fades, she's shaking. Her skin glows faintly. The scent of rain and blood mingle. Her eyes catch his, gold meeting silver across a field of ruin. He sees it then. Not the fragile woman he carried through the dark, but the prophecy made flesh. The fire his kind once bowed to. But before either can breathe, a sound splits the air, a horn. One long, haunting note. A signal. He turns too late. From behind, betrayal strikes. A blade drives deep into his side, glinting with wolfsbane oil. His body jerks, and for the first time, she hears him roar in pain. The traitor steps forward, face slick with rain and greed. Someone they trusted. Someone who led the soldiers here. The sight rips through her. Anger. Shock. Disbelief. It all crashes inside her chest like a flood breaking through its dam. He drops to his knees, blood pooling beneath him, steam rising from his wound. She screams his name, but the sound is lost beneath thunder. The soldiers swarm. Hands grab her arms. Chains bite into her skin once again. Silver burns her flesh. She fights, kicking, thrashing, screaming, but the poison weakens her limbs. The unborn children stir violently, their energy clashing with her pain. It feels like fire tearing through her veins. She looks toward him, struggling to breathe. He's crawling toward her, eyes blazing even as life bleeds from him. And in that instant, she sees what he's trying to say without words: run. But she can't. Not again. No, she whispers through tears. Not this time. The soldiers strike her down. Her knees hit the ground. Mud splashes. Lightning flashes, painting her face in silver and shadow. And still, she doesn't yield. The traitor grabs her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. The Alpha King wants his prize alive, he sneers. Let's not keep him waiting. She spits blood at his boots. Tell him the prize bites. He slaps her. Hard. Her vision swims, but the fire inside refuses to die. Even as they drag her down the mountain, her body limp, her mind burns with one truth: the prophecy isn't over. It's only waking. Rain pounds harder. Every drop feels like the earth itself mourning what's to come. Behind her, the wounded Alpha forces himself to stand. He leans on a broken spear, chest heaving, vision dim. The poison crawls through his veins like ice, but still, he moves. One step. Then another. He watches them disappear into the darkness, taking her with them. He doesn't howl this time. He doesn't need to. The silence between heartbeats becomes a vow: he will find her. And as lightning fractures the sky, something ancient stirs beneath the mountain, the spirit of the old wolves, whispering in tongues long forgotten. The ground trembles as if recognizing the war reborn. By the time dawn breaks, the battlefield lies quiet again. Bodies still. Smoke curling upward like ghosts. The river runs red, carrying away what remains of the night's fury. Far below, bound in chains and drenched in blood, she's dragged back toward the ritual ground she once escaped, the same marble pit where her suffering began. But this time, her eyes are different. There's no fear left in them. Only promise. Only fire. The prophecy was never about salvation. It was about reckoning. And as the storm gathers again, deep in her womb, the twins stir, two heartbeats, pulsing in rhythm with the thunder. The world thinks it's won. It has no idea what it's awakened. The air in the cell is heavy with rot, sweat, and despair. Stone walls sweat with moisture from the earth above, and somewhere far down the corridor, someone sobs until their voice fades into hoarse silence. The smell of iron is everywhere, iron bars, iron chains, iron blood. She sits on the cold floor, her back pressed against the damp wall. The flicker of a single torch outside the cell door dances across her bruised face, painting her features in trembling shades of gold and shadow. Her wrists are raw where the silver cuffs bite, the faint hiss of burned skin marking every shallow breath she takes. For a long time, she hasn't spoken. Not since the mountain. Not since she watched him fall. The sound of rain that once comforted her has been replaced by the dripping of water from the ceiling, steady, cruel, endless. Her mind drifts. She counts the drops, the echoes, the seconds between each heartbeat, clinging to rhythm because it's the only thing she can control. But when she hears footsteps, soft and deliberate, everything inside her stills. There's a murmur beyond the cell. A man's voice. The guards laugh, coin clinks, something metallic slides across a table. Then silence again, until a figure steps into the torchlight. At first, she thinks it's another buyer. One more noble come to browse the condemned. Her fingers curl instinctively, ready to strike though she knows she can't win. But then the man lifts his hood, and her breath catches. Him. The one she buried in her memory because believing he lived was too painful to bear. The alpha who tore through armies and bled for her under stormlight. He's alive. But not the same. He wears the disguise of a Roman traitor, clothes coarse and smeared with dust. A scar cuts across his jaw, half hidden by the shadow of his hood. He smells of smoke and steel, but beneath that, faintly, she catches it, the scent she thought she'd never breathe again. The scent of home. Her heart lurches so violently it hurts. You came back, she whispers, voice trembling against the weight of disbelief. He stands still for a heartbeat, as though her words are both knife and salvation. Then quietly, I never left. The cell feels smaller suddenly, too intimate for the flood of emotion pressing between them. He moves closer, and the sound of his boots against the stone is louder than thunder in her ears. When his hand brushes the bars, she flinches, not from fear, but from memory. He notices. His gaze softens, gold flickering like firelight behind his eyes. Easy, he murmurs. They can't hurt you now. But she shakes her head. You don't know what they did. I know enough. His hand finds hers through the bars, fingers rough, trembling slightly. The contact sends something electric through her, sharp, familiar, alive. It burns away the cold for a moment, burns away the distance she built to survive. I watched you fall, she says. I felt your pain. I thought. You thought I was gone, he finishes softly. I was. For a while. He glances down, pulling his cloak aside. Across his chest, beneath the fabric, a scar gleams faintly in the torchlight, two interlocked crescents. The mark she bears. Her breath stumbles out in disbelief. How? When the poison reached my heart, something pulled me back. A fire I didn't understand. Until now. She doesn't move. Doesn't speak. She just stares at that mark, the twin to her own, glowing faintly like embers that refuse to die. I shouldn't be here, he says. Every breath I take inside these walls risks everything. But I had to see you. Her throat tightens. Why? His eyes hold hers, steady, unflinching. Because I can't protect what I don't know how to save. And I can't save you if you don't trust me. She looks down at her chains, then back at him. Trust you? I trusted a man once. He said I was his destiny. Then he made me his curse. His hand curls around the bar, knuckles white. The pain in his face isn't anger, it's something deeper. Something like guilt. I'm not him. I know, she admits, barely audible. That's what makes it worse. The torch flickers, throwing light across her face. He can see the exhaustion in her eyes, the quiet defiance beneath it. She's a woman who has lost everything yet refuses to break. And in her gaze, he finds himself again, the wolf he thought the world had buried. "Tell me what they've planned," he says, voice low. "They mean to sell me," she replies. "To whoever offers the highest coin. The king wants me alive, but the nobles, they want me tamed. A trophy with magic they can cage." A muscle in his jaw tightens. "Then we don't have time." He steps closer, sliding a small blade from his sleeve. It's bone-carved, old. Wolf-forged. The silver cuffs hiss when he touches them, but he doesn't stop. The smell of burning skin fills the air. "You'll burn," she warns. "I already am." The chain snaps. The cuffs fall away. She gasps as the pain releases, blood rushing back to her hands. He catches her as she sways, steadying her by the shoulders. "Look at me," he says, voice soft but commanding. She does. And in that space between heartbeats, everything that's been buried, the longing, the fear, the ache of two souls pulled by fate, rises like a tide that refuses to be stopped. "You shouldn't have come," she whispers. "I told you," he murmurs, his forehead almost touching hers. "I never left." The silence that follows is thick with everything unsaid. Their wolves stir beneath their skin, restless, recognizing what their minds still fight to name. He brushes a strand of hair from her face. His touch is careful, reverent, as though she might shatter if he forgets to breathe. "Do you trust me?" he asks again. Her eyes shine with the weight of the question. "I don't know how." "Then I'll teach you," he says. He lifts her hand, pressing it against his chest where the twin mark burns faintly. She feels it, his heartbeat, wild and steady beneath her palm. And beneath that, the thrum of power, low and alive, resonating with hers. The marks begin to glow, silver and gold intertwining, pulsing in unison. The air thickens, charged. Her breath hitches as the energy travels up her arm, into her veins, across her chest. It's too much, too raw, too real. "What's happening?" she whispers. "Our wolves," he breathes, "they remember what we forgot." The distance between them dissolves. For a moment, there's nothing but heartbeat and heat and the pull of something older than choice. His hand finds the back of her neck. Her lips part. The world narrows to that single moment, two souls caught between ruin and redemption. But just as the space between them disappears, a horn blares from above. Loud. Cold. Final. The sound vibrates through the stone. Voices rise, boots thunder across the corridor, chains rattle. The guards are coming. He jerks back, every instinct screaming to fight. But she catches his wrist, eyes wide, pleading. "If they find you." "They won't." "You don't know that." He hesitates, torn between duty and desire, between the urge to tear down the walls and the fear of losing her all over again. The sound of names being called echoes down the hallway. The next auction is beginning. And then it happens. Her name. Spoken aloud. Announced like a curse. The world stops moving. He looks at her, this woman who carries the fate of kingdoms inside her belly, and something inside him fractures. He wants to tell her he'll find a way. He wants to promise that this isn't the end. But words fail. Instead, he presses his forehead to hers, one last heartbeat shared. "Trust me," he whispers, "or leave me. But don't stop fighting." Then he slips into the shadows just as the cell door creaks open. Guards flood in, dragging her to her feet, their hands rough, their laughter cruel. The torchlight fades as they lead her up the stone steps toward the arena above. The last thing she hears before the world drowns in noise is his voice in her mind, fierce and certain, "I'll find you before the final bid." And as she's forced into the blinding light of the amphitheater, she feels the pulse of their marks beneath her skin, still beating in unison, even through walls and chains. The bond isn't broken. It's only begun to wake. The amphitheater roars like a storm trapped in stone. Torches flare across marble arches, spilling their cruel light on the raised platform where the condemned are displayed like spoils of war. The air tastes of sweat, iron, and smoke, thick with the stench of human hunger for spectacle. And there she stands. The Luna, once the pride of the Alpha King's pack, now the entertainment of Rome's heartless crowd. Chains bite her wrists, the silver eating through skin that still bears faint traces of power beneath the surface. Her breath trembles, not from fear, but from the bitter knowledge that this is what the world loves most, to break what it cannot understand. Her name rises from the mob, a chant that grows louder, uglier, each syllable spitting venom. The cursed Luna. The cursed Luna. The words cut deeper than the chains ever could. Above her, the marble balcony gleams like ice. The Alpha King appears there, wrapped in black furs and arrogance. The torchlight catches the gold in his hair and the cruelty in his smile. He raises his hand, and the crowd falls into reverent silence. My people, he begins, voice smooth as silk, thick with false benevolence, we have suffered under lies. Under betrayal. But mercy still lives in the heart of your king. A murmur sweeps through the crowd. Hope flickers for a moment, foolish, fragile hope. Even she lifts her head, confusion shadowing her bruised face. He steps down from the balcony, walking toward her with calculated grace. Each stride echoes off the stone, a measured beat that matches the thudding of her heart. When he reaches her, he kneels, not out of love, but for the theater of it. My Luna, he says softly, loud enough for the crowd to hear. I offer you redemption before our people. Kneel before your king, and your sins will be washed away. She stares at him, the man she once trusted, the father of the lives growing inside her. She sees no mercy in his eyes. Only victory. The crowd begins to cheer again, swept up in the performance. They see repentance. She sees only the sharpened edge of deceit. Still, he waits. And when she doesn't move fast enough, a guard behind her shoves her to her knees. The stone cracks beneath the force. Pain surges through her body, sharp and immediate. She gasps, clutching her belly. The Alpha King smiles, satisfied. Let the ritual begin, he declares. From the shadows, priests in crimson robes emerge, carrying bowls of blood and silver dust. They chant in the old tongue, the language of wolves before the dawn of men. The ground hums, resonating with dark magic. And then, movement at the edge of the platform. She lifts her head and freezes. There, among the guards, is her rescuer. Shackled, bloodied, forced to his knees. His eyes find hers across the distance, burning with warning and apology. The sight of him shatters what little strength she has left. Her lips part, but no sound comes. Only the tremor of recognition that runs between them, two souls bound by something neither ritual nor crown could break. The elder council steps forward, ancient and cold. One of them raises a staff carved with runes that pulse red like open wounds. He turns to the crowd and begins to speak. The prophecy has been misunderstood, he says, his voice echoing off the marble. The scrolls speak not of salvation, but of ruin. The child of flame will end the world of wolves. Her blood will burn the packs. Her womb is the womb of extinction. Gasps ripple through the audience. The Alpha King feigns shock, playing his part well. Then she must be purged, he proclaims. The priest nods solemnly, lifting his staff high. For the good of our kind. And just like that, the illusion of mercy dies. Guards step closer. The Alpha King takes the whip, again. He glances at the crowd, letting them see the tears glittering in his eyes, the noble sorrow of a king forced to do the unthinkable. Then he turns to her. And brings the lash down. Once. Twice. Each strike sings through the air, cruel and final. The crowd chants for purification, blind to the truth bleeding before them. Her rescuer roars, his chains clanging against the marble. Enough. But the guards silence him, forcing him down. Blood streaks across her back, glowing faintly silver where it hits the floor. She collapses, palms flat against the stone. The world spins. The sound of the crowd fades into a distant roar. Her vision blurs, but she can still see his face, her king, her executioner, standing above her. He leans close, whispering where only she can hear. You were never meant to be more than my symbol. And now, you'll die as my warning. Something inside her snaps. Not her spirit, something deeper. Something ancient. The chains begin to tremble. The air thickens. The torches flicker violently as if gasping for breath. A cold wind sweeps through the arena, carrying the scent of storm and lightning. Her eyes open. Silver light spills from them. Her voice, when it comes, is not entirely human. You took everything from me. And still, you call it mercy. The Alpha King steps back, eyes narrowing. What are you doing? She rises slowly, every movement deliberate, her body radiating a light that cuts through shadow. The silver burns the chains from her wrists. The metal melts like wax. The priests drop their bowls. The crowd screams. The elder stumbles backward, the staff shattering in his hand. The Luna straightens to her full height, blood-streaked and radiant. The silver flame of her birthright unfurls around her like wings. The Alpha King shouts to his soldiers, "Stop her. Now." But it's too late. The light expands, swallowing the torches, turning night into brilliance. The ground trembles. Statues crack. Ancient runes blaze to life, responding to her awakening. Her rescuer watches in awe and terror as her power unfolds, his chains glowing faintly where her energy touches them. She looks down at her hands, trembling, awash in luminous fire. For the first time, she doesn't hide it. She embraces it. And then she speaks, her voice calm, carrying over the chaos. I am not your sacrifice. The sky answers. Thunder cracks open the heavens, and the storm descends upon the city. The marble beneath her feet splits, light pouring through the fissures. The amphitheater shakes as the ancient gods awaken, answering the call of their lost child. The Alpha King raises his whip again, desperate, blinded by rage. He charges forward, but the wind lifts him off his feet and slams him against the altar he built for her death. She approaches, each step echoing like a heartbeat. The flames curl around her but never touch her skin. You flogged me for being more than you, she says, her voice steady, reverberating through the storm. Now watch what that power becomes. Her power surges. A wave of light explodes outward, tearing through the arena. Statues crumble. Chains shatter. Prisoners collapse in awe as their bonds dissolve. The Alpha King screams as his crown splits in two, molten gold dripping down his face. The people who once cheered now kneel, trembling before the blaze of divinity. But she does not kill him. When the power settles, she stands over him, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with horror. Do it, he gasps. Finish it. Her gaze hardens. No. Her voice softens, almost a whisper. Let your shame live longer than your reign. The storm quiets. The light fades to a glow that wraps gently around the broken. Her energy shifts, no longer wrathful but healing. Across the ruins, prisoners begin to stir, their wounds closing, their pain fading. The silver fire moves like a spirit, touching the fallen, freeing the enslaved. Her rescuer crawls toward her, weak but alive. The marks on his chest and hers pulse in unison. When he reaches her, he kneels, bowing his head. The flame chose right, he murmurs. She turns her gaze to him. For the first time in what feels like lifetimes, there is peace in her eyes. Then, slowly, she presses a hand to her belly. The twins stir beneath her skin, their faint glow answering her touch. The people watch, silent, as the light spreads from her palms to the heavens. The chains of the old world crumble. The tyranny of kings ends. And somewhere, deep within her, the voice of her mother whispers through the wind. Your flame will free or destroy us all. She finally understands. It was never destruction. It was rebirth. The dawn creeps slowly over the fractured amphitheater, smoke curling like ghostly serpents across the stones. The crowd kneels, still trembling, unsure whether they have witnessed salvation or wrath incarnate. Every torch burns low, casting long shadows that dance like memories across marble and rubble. Her figure stands alone at the edge of the ruins, silver flames still rippling faintly along her skin, the twins stirring within her as if echoing the heartbeat of the world itself. She lifts her chin, letting the wind whip her hair across her face. It smells of ash, rain, and freedom, but freedom tempered with the bitter tang of loss. Her voice carries, low and lyrical, brushing the ears of those who still survive. Would you have loved me still, if my fire burned you too? The question hangs in the morning air, heavy with possibility and dread. Her eyes, silver and infinite, scan the horizon where mountains rise like jagged teeth, promising refuge but whispering of trials yet to come. She turns from the ruins, letting her cloak catch the wind, letting her bare feet touch the dew-soaked earth. Each step carries the weight of destiny, every motion a balance between human fragility and wolf-born power. The twins pulse beneath her skin, faint glimmers that echo in time with the tremor of the mountains. They are alive, fierce, and aware. Already speaking to her in dreams, calling her to a future she cannot yet see. The rescuer emerges from the shadows, cautious but steady. His eyes meet hers, the twin marks on his chest glowing faintly, a signal that the prophecy is far from over. He kneels, breath ragged, but devotion unwavering. The wolf in him stirs, alert, sensing danger beyond the visible, sensing betrayal still hidden in hearts not yet revealed. She survived, he whispers, more to himself than her, and for a moment the world falls away. She regards him, unreadable, her voice carrying the weight of storms yet to come. I did more than survive, she says. I live. And I will fight. For them, for us, for everything that was stolen. The wind ripples across the mountainside, carrying rumors like wildfire. Word travels faster than feet, the Alpha King's empire lies in ruin, his throne shattered by the one he sought to destroy. But power, she knows, never dies, it simply waits. Far off, beyond the clouds, the twin moons rise into the sky, pale mirrors reflecting their fates. The forgotten pack stirs. Descendants of gods, hunters who cursed her bloodline, are awakening, drawn by the pulse of the flame she carries. She feels it, cold and inexorable, whispering that her fight is far from over. Her twins, glowing faintly beneath her skin, shift and whisper in dreams. Their voices rise like wind chimes tangled in a storm. They speak of the true Alpha, of trials beyond human comprehension, of wolves who will rise in allegiance or in vengeance. Her rescuer watches her closely, the marks on his chest crawling, spreading, revealing that he too is bound to the prophecy. Every step he takes toward her feels both protective and inevitable, yet the weight of what is to come presses between them. The air grows tense, charged with anticipation. Ancient temples, long abandoned, begin to stir with life. Wolves gather in the shadows beneath the twin moons, eyes gleaming like molten gold. Their cries echo across fractured civilizations, calling to the blood in her veins, calling to the flames she thought she controlled. Betrayal brews silently within her new allies. Even those who follow her with loyalty find their hearts tempted, their motives twisted by the intoxicating pull of power. Every alliance carries the seed of corruption, and every choice she makes could ignite ruin as easily as salvation. The world fractures. Entire cities shift under the weight of prophecy, and she moves like a specter through it all, neither fully human nor fully wolf, a mother, a warrior, and a herald of a future that trembles between love and destruction. Her heart beats with the memory of pain, of lashes, of the Alpha King's cruelty, but also with the warmth of hope, the flame of trust in her rescuer, the pulse of her unborn twins, the knowledge that power, when claimed, can forge new destinies. She pauses atop a cliff, wind tearing at her cloak, silver fire dancing along her wrists. Below, the rivers gleam like liquid mirrors, reflecting a sky still shadowed with storm. She feels the pull of the mountains, the weight of prophecy, the whisper of voices both human and divine. The twins stir again, tiny pulses of light that react to her will. Already, they speak through dreams, guiding her, warning her, teaching her the rhythm of what must come. And in the far distance, hidden eyes watch. Enemies and allies both, drawn by the flame she carries, waiting for the moment when destiny and ambition collide. She turns to the rescuer. Their eyes meet, the twin marks glowing in synchrony. No words are needed. They share understanding, the fight is far from over, the path ahead dangerous, and the cost of failure unimaginable. Yet she smiles, faint and resolute. Come, she says. The world is not ready, but we will make it ready. Lightning cracks across the sky, illuminating the mountains like fire etched into stone. The air shivers with power, alive, anticipating the next chapters of this unfolding saga. She lifts her head to the rising twin moons. Her fire spreads across her body, gentle now, warming, promising both protection and reckoning. Every heartbeat thrums with destiny, and the wind carries her forward, across mountains, into forests, past the ruins of empires, into the unseen, the unknown, the inevitable. Whispers of the forgotten pack reach her ears. Wolves of divine lineage, hunting for what she carries. The twins pulse beneath her skin as if answering the call, small flames in the night, guiding her, warning her. The rescuer steps closer, shadow merging with flame, his own heartbeat echoing hers. The twin marks shine brighter, a beacon of unity, of power, of defiance against fate itself. Civilizations tremble below. Markets, cities, and ancient temples quake as if aware that the air of flame walks among them, carrying a destiny no crown, no king, no god could ever bind. And yet, even in triumph, a shadow moves unseen. Betrayal festers among allies, and whispers of darkness spread like smoke. Every step forward is met with the risk of ruin. Every act of trust carries the weight of potential treachery. She pauses at the edge of the cliff again, wind tugging at her cloak. The twins stir, and she presses a hand to her belly, feeling them pulse with the energy of prophecy. This is only the beginning, she whispers, voice low, carrying through the night. The hunt has begun, and we will not hide. Behind her, the twin moons shine bright, illuminating wolves gathering in the forests, temples reopening, and the stirrings of an ancient power that predates kings, emperors, and empires. Her rescuer kneels, offering a hand and a steadying presence. The bond between them is unspoken, deeper than fear, deeper than blood. They share the weight of prophecy, the burden of power, and the fire of love that refuses to be tamed. And in that moment, she knows, the next battle will be greater than the last. The Alpha King is gone, but the true enemies are yet to reveal themselves. The twins are the key. The flame is the key. And the hunt has only just begun. She turns toward the mountains, the wind carrying her cloak like wings, her silver fire a promise of the storm to come. She fled the whip once. But destiny hunts even the fastest wolves. If her courage lit something inside you, subscribe to Sophie's Romance Collections, where every heartbeat tells a story, and every scar hides a destiny. The shadows stretch. The wind carries whispers of the forgotten pack, of wolves who speak the language of gods, of civilizations trembling under the pull of prophecy. The twins kick once more, a tiny pulse of light beneath her skin, signaling that the next chapter is not far. Ancient temples stir. Wolves howl beneath twin moons. Civilizations fracture and rebuild in chaos. And far above, the sky darkens once more, signaling the approach of the blood eclipse, the final hour where love, destiny, and destruction will collide. And she moves forward. The flame alive. The prophecy unfolding. The hunt has begun. And the world waits, breathless, for the reckoning to come.